Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's Quick Bites webinar from Just2Easy. As you can see, my name is Paul Wright. I teach computing in 2 primary schools in Kingston upon Hull, and I'm currently working part-time for Just2Easy. Pardon me. Also with me on the call today is Alistair Cameron, and he's kindly manning the chat line. So if you do have any questions as the webinar progresses, if you direct them to Alistair, and he'll either answer them there and then, or save them for the Q&A session towards the end. So let's have a look what is on the agenda for today. The focus is here. It's the j2code motion blocks. We're going to have a roughly 15-minute tutorial, how to access it, and have a look, explore the blocks and look at some examples of work that I've used with pupils. So if you're new to j2code, you can access it either from that menu there or this tile, which will be somewhere on your dashboard, probably not in the same place as mine. And then once you have connected to that, j2code has several components to it. There's the Key Stage 1 aspect. There is Logo, which is a text-based coding language. And there is a virtual microbit. Well, this is the bit we're going to focus on today, J2 Visual. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move on to the next slide. We'll have a look at some examples. So this is one that recently done with Key Stage 2 pupils. Their set text for the term was the lighthouse keeper's lunch. So to try and sort of make a bit of a connection between the subjects, created this background, and the idea is that they need to code the rowing boat to deliver lunch to the jetty. And for this exercise, we just focus on the move forward blocks and the right blocks. And if you're new to j2code, you just click a block and then drag it out and pop it on a page. And you can test it either by right-clicking and running the block. It's gone forward. Or you can test it with the play button over here. Okay, so we've got the boat moving. So now we need to think about turning it. So here we go. And I do encourage the children to sort of test each block as it goes on. It does save them putting dozens of blocks on a page and then struggling to find out where it's gone wrong. So we can put both on now and test them. And you'll notice that as we press play, these blocks are highlighted. So you can see the actions being carried out. There we go. So I need to drag another one again, test it. Well, that's clearly not right. So we can, you notice, we click on forward, the downward pointing arrow, we can go and swap its direction and then see how we go. So forward. And I can continue dragging out blocks there. Now I suspect that initially the children will do just that. They'll drag out the blocks and use their default settings. Whoops, need it backwards there. Bit of debugging in action. But you can also change these numbers in the green. So if we've gone forward 200 here, we could drop that in the bin and just change that to 200 and see how far we go. Okay, so we can tinker and see if we can get near that. And we can also change the angle of turn. So if I just change it for 45, just to demonstrate what will happen. There we go. So, you know, it's a very easy intro, but just focusing on those 2 blocks. Okay, so that's the move and turn. So let's just lose that file now. I won't save it. And we'll come back to this rumble star. This is, again, it's their set text for year 5s, and their coding objective this term is to code a game that people can play with a penalty. So here we can see we've used the move blocks now. In the rowing boat, we just let it go its merry way. In this one, we've just clicked in the events and we've dragged out one of these blocks so that the balloon will move when the arrow key is pressed. Obviously, we need to have some user interaction for the game. So let's have a look. So we're just going to start that. So here we go. Forward key. You see the balloon, backward keys coming round. And you look at it and think, well, it's logical that left turns left. But if we do that, this is what happens, and which would make for a very unsafe balloon ride. So how do we get that balloon to go left and right across the screen? So I'm going to just take the left turn blocks away and drop them in the bin, and then I'm going to go and get this one. I'm going to go and find the change X by 10. So I'm going to drop that into there. If you look at the numbers down here, the coordinates, you see, as I go right, the X coordinate is changing. So let's have a look at that now. So now when I press the right arrow key, the balloon goes. So I just need then to go and get that change X by 10. And obviously we can throw in a little bit of mathematics, because the opposite of that will be minus 10. So let me just, here goes our balloon. Forwards, backwards, and now we are travelling safely around Rumblestar. And obviously we could, if we wanted to, change Y. There is a change Y option if we want to do that. So that's fine. So that's different ways of moving. So let's just have a look now, because down here also in our game, we had to code a penalty. So we'll cover these blocks in another seminar, but basically, you know, I'm coding the balloon. If it touches the trees, go back to the start, which is about down here. There we go, it's about 60 minus 200. So I'm just going to pilot my balloon at the trees, and there it is. It very quickly goes back to the start. But I don't find it a particularly realistic. It's a bit, as one of my children said, it's a bit like teleporting. So I'm going to just put that to one side. And if you're getting the children to tinker with blocks, rather than throw them in the bin and get them back out again, if they right click, they could disable the block. So it will be on the page, but won't do anything. So let's have a look. Come back into the motion box. So I'm going to choose this one now. A similar block, but rather than go to, I glide. So let me just pop those numbers in. 60 minus 200. And I'll once again pilot my balloon to the trees. But this time, I glide back a little more realistically and a little more gently. You know, it might be that if you're coding a game where something needs to teleport, the go-to would be the one to use. Another big advantage of the glide button is here you can change the number of seconds, and you can speed up or slow down how long your sprite goes from A to B. It's quite, pardon me, quite flexible. So whilst we're here, I got this image off the web, and if I just click on it here, because j2code doesn't know what it is, it's just a bunch of pixels, it's got no way of knowing which direction forward is. So you as a user can decide which way you want forward to be. So especially useful if they've downloaded pictures of animals, you can decide that forward is in the direction of the eyes. Okay, so that's looking at those. So let's have a look at some of the other blocks that we've I've got here. The go to mouse pointer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to I can put those in the bin, so I don't think I need them anymore. If I click on the forever do go to mouse pointer, and the forever do is necessary, otherwise it'll just do it once and stop. So now you can see that I've coded the balloon to go to the mouse pointer. So if I was making a game for a tablet or touchscreen device, it's another option of controlling the balloon. Okay, we have mainly used Chromebooks at the moment, so the keys are logical, but you can do that. Okay, so there is the go to mouse pointer. I'll come to the rotation in a minute. The set X and Y buttons do exactly that. So if I set X to 0, then I will just run that block, right click, run that block, and you'll see the balloon goes to 0 on the x-axis. So you can use that to position your sprite any way you like, or you could just set it using the go to X and Y. So in some of the games that the children have made, if they want to make sure that their balloon starts in a particular place, so if they wanted it to start there, they would send it to 0, 0. Okay, so that would appear at the top, because j2code works from the top down. So the first thing you want to happen is for that sprite to go to a particular place, so you can just guarantee that it is happening there. Okay, right, so let's have a quick look down this list again. We've covered most of them. We're going to come to the rotation style in another one example in a second, and we'll come to this one. Okay, in fact, we'll do set direction. So let me just come back. I don't need to save that. So let's have a look at the ball bounce. Okay, so again, this is an example. So we can see here that I've got a ball off the internet. And again, in year 5, we make a football game. You know, we put goals in and we touch the goal. So obviously, we want to make sure that that ball bounces round. So this is the motion block that we would use. Move forward, and then if on the edge, bounce. Okay, obviously, we'll tell it to do forever. So if I leave it on the defaults at the moment, it's going to bounce like that. So this is a bit of a balancing act between getting that slider in the right place and this number here. Well, that's most unsatisfactory. So I'm going to take that back down to 10. That's a little better. If I wanted to speed it up, I can change that number or drag the slider. Now, that ball is just going to go up and down there, which is not going to make much for a game. So I need to get it off center. So I can do two things. I can either turn it right by a number here, which we've seen before. But I could also set the direction. If you think of a point of a compass, 360 degrees. So if I just set that direction to anything really, 43, then the ball will go and it will hit the side and just keep bouncing. As I say, if I can pick that slider up and increase the speed of my game, or I can tick here. So that's just a way of getting it. So another game that you want, if you want something to move around the screen, that is another way of doing it. Okay, and the last thing we did mention was the rotate. So let me just stop that. I'm going to get that bird to do exactly the same. I'm going to get it to repeat, I don't know, 50 times. I'm going to get it to move forward slightly. Let's see what happens there. Oh, look, you see, it's bounced up. Now, it's not going forward. So if I just remind you, I can set the direction and send the bird in the direction of its eyes and its beak, which would be much more logical. But you'll notice that as it hits the side, it flips upside down. So all we need to do there is to come back and set the rotation. It's set to rotate by default. If you set it not to rotate, the bird should. Okay, now I know it's flying backwards, but that involves costumes, and that's a different webinar. Okay, so I hope that's given you a reasonable introduction and oversight of the motion blocks. If you're starting with younger children, if you just go to level 1, you get less blocks for them to tinker with, and it just goes through. You get a few more at level 2 and a few more at level 3. Okay, so this webinar will be posted to here, j2code news soon. If I just click, there it is, the quick bites. So this will be there fairly soon, and you'll see here the previous webinars, quick bites that have been done, and the ones that are coming between now and the end of February. So please feel free to point these out to your colleagues. They are all about 15 minutes long with a very specific focus. Right, just remains me to ask Alistair, have there been any questions, Alistair?
Hi there, Paul. Brilliant job. Thank you so much. What a great session you just covered there with all of the really simple, basic details of how to get a sprite to move. That's absolutely awesome. People, I'm sure, will have learned a lot from that short session. The one question that did come up was you sort of half answered it actually already, which was regarding when you were showing the Rumble Star activity. Now, you mentioned when you were in the Rumble Star activity that the j2code works from the top down.
Yeah,
So could you just run through what you mean by top down in
yeah,
terms
yeah.
of
So what I'll do, I will
function?
I'm just going to throw everything in the bin. I'm not throwing it in the bin. Notice I'm just pressing delete and the backspace key. Yeah. So you listen, when I did it, I was joining the blocks up. I should have been specific there. So I was joining those blocks up and doing it in that fashion. But what does sometimes happen, particularly if children go over here and they think they've thrown something in the bin, but they haven't, then they'll just click on it. Oh, I'll slow that up a bit. Then it will go forward and they think, well, why has that happened? And it's because the code is still lurking. So it doesn't matter where it is on the page. So j2code will move that. So if I just swap the order of those around and just press play, you'll see it will now. It'll turn right and then move off. If I put that one in the middle, it'll move, turn right and move again. Okay, so that's the order, which is one reason why I tidy them up and doing like that. So yes, that's what I mean. Okay.
Fabulous. However, that sort of half answers the question.
Okay.
You had four different commands, separate commands on the screen at the same time. What order will it do those if they are at the same level on the page?
Oh, that's for the motion blocks. So let me go back. I won't save this. I'll go back to the original. So do you mean these keys here, Alistair?
Yes.
Right, they are waiting for a key press, so they will do nothing. So actually, it doesn't matter where they go; they will only kick in when the arrow keys are pressed. So the order is important if you're coding something to move in this sort of fashion, as we've just had a look at. You know, forward, turn, and forward, and that's what it'll do. And if I swap those around, it's critical. But for these, it doesn't matter. They're just waiting for a key to be pressed.
Excellent. And you wouldn't put different motion blocks separately on the page. You would always connect them because that's important that they do it in the right order.
I would, because it's quite easy, especially when they drop it in the bin. It's quite easy for them to do that, miss the bin, and then they've actually got a bit of code lurking around. And you as a teacher think, oh no, that's why it's turning right, because you've still told it to turn right. It's still there. Yeah.
Great practitioner stuff there. Thank you so much, Paul. Much appreciated. So thanks once again, everybody. Do join us next time for the next session of the j2codes short, quick bites that we've got for the whole of this month. We look forward to seeing you next week for, I believe it is, oh gosh, which one is it there, Paul, at the top of the page? It's animating sprites.
Animating, yeah. So we're going to pick it up. We're going to make characters move, do some simple animation in code.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Paul. Have a lovely week, everybody. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.